The February 1st, 2017 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. In the interest of promoting the order and efficiencies of these hearings, persons who are disruptive to the hearings will be asked to leave the hearing room immediately. Meetings of the Board of Estimates are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in a charge of trespassing. Madam Deputy Controller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda?
Good morning. For today's agenda, the board received a protest from Ms. Kim Trueheart for all items on the agenda. The board did review her protest, however, it will not be heard. I have the following abstentions to note. The Honorable Mayor Pugh will abstain on pages 15 to 16. The Honorable President Young will abstain on page 54, item 1, and the Honorable Comptroller Pratt will abstain on page 46, item number 3. The item that remains on the non-routine agenda is pages 39 to 40, items 1 and 2. Mr. President and members of the board, that is the protest received as well as the abstentions that have been reported for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I will direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from our office dated January the 30th, 2017, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any correction and additions that have been noted by the Deputy Controller. I will entertain a motion to approve all of the items contained on the routine agenda.
I move the approval of the items on the routine agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. Routine agenda has been adopted. The first item on the non-routine
President.
agenda.
May I make a correction to one of the abstentions? It's been brought to my attention that for Honorable Comptroller Pratt, she will not be abstaining on page 46, item number 3, but page 46, item number 4. Thank you.
Thank you. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 39 to 40, items 1 to 2. Department of Transportation, recommendation for contract award, TR 17004, reconstruction of alley citywide. Will the parties please come forward? But I want to make a statement before the parties come forward. We had the same issue before this board last week on 2 contracts similar to this. And I don't see anything that's going to convince this board to reverse this decision, but we will hear you out.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Mr. President, and Madam Controller, members of the board. I'm Frank Murphy, Acting Director of Transportation. The Department of Transportation recommends the award for contract TR 17004 to the low bidder, R.E. Harrington and Company.
Okay.
Good morning, Matt Haven on behalf of Santos Construction Company, Inc. As you can see from our protest letter, there are 2 issues raised. One of the issues to my client is more important and significant than the other, and that's the issue of the bid proposal affidavit not including the words none or anything in several of the categories. And I understand this issue was raised last week. The issue is somewhat different to my client and to the extent that it was denied a low bid in 2008 for the same issue. So it did not fill in Santos did not fill in one blank on this form, and I can direct your attention to page 100 of the bid. It did not fill in none or anything for this section. It was rejected, although it was the low bid. The same issue arises with R.E. Harrington's bid. There is nothing filled in 4 separate sections of this bid proposal affidavit, and if you looked at the top, I'm just quoting city's form, the following bid proposal affidavit is a material and integral part of this bid. Each bidder shall read it carefully and enter all information required therein prior to executing it before a notary public. And this is the key part. Failure to properly complete and execute this bid proposal affidavit will cause your bid to be found unresponsive, and it will be rejected by the Board of Estimates. All of the information was not filled in by R.E. Harrington. And several years ago, when my client had the low bid for approximately $1 million project, it lost out on that bid because it did not fill in the words none or anything, same as R.E. Harrington did. And I think it's an important point that consistency is required. The public requires consistency, bidders require consistency on how the rules are applied. And I understand that a week ago the same issue was ruled on, but I think from my client's perspective it was denied a bid that it rightly had the low bid on, and the same issue is arising now.
Mr. Ralph?
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, you're aware that this was a different board in 2008.
Correct.
And like a court, the court weighs the facts before it and makes determinations in its discretion.
Understood.
And you're not denying the fact that we have the discretion, based on the information we have today, to make a decision what we think, this board thinks, is in the best interest of the city.
No, I understand that that's the board's discretion, but at the same time, the city's forms do state that the bids will be rejected if this information is not there. It's not there.
Well, let me ask you about that.
Sure.
Does it say that, or does it say that if you don't have any information to add? Was there any, isn't it an affirmative request if there are any, if you have anything to add, right? So what did your client put in that
They
box?
put none.
None, because it had nothing to add.
Right, but with our Harrington's bid, you don't know. We're guessing as to what the answer is. Now, a reasonable inference could be that the answer is none. I'm not going to deny that's a reasonable inference, but it's an inference still.
Would it be different if they had said nothing, if they put the words nothing,
No. I
That
think it would be the same. I would view that as the same as
as what your client put?
correct.
So that would be acceptable
Yes.
for them to have written the words nothing?
Yes.
And you're saying it's a material difference that they actually put nothing instead of writing the words nothing?
That's what the top, that's how I read the top of this proposal affidavit. Yes.
Doesn't it require you to do something affirmative if you have information to put that additional information?
I don't, no, I don't believe that. I believe that what is required is for the city to understand exactly what each bidder knows or does not know as far as each line item in this bid proposal affidavit. I don't believe the city can infer one way or the other. I think it's a reasonable inference that none is what is, but I also think it's a reasonable inference that there may be something out there we don't know.
So if there is something out there that we don't know, and he puts nothing there, or he writes the word nothing, and in fact, there is something, are you saying we can't hold him responsible for that misrepresentation?
I'm not sure, hold them responsible in what way?
Well, for misrepresenting, for not putting anything. Say he puts nothing there, or he writes the word nothing, and there is in fact something, are you saying that we can't hold him accountable for that misrepresentation?
Void the contract, is that what?
Whatever we choose to do, that we can't hold him responsible, even if he puts nothing there.
I think at that point the contract would have been awarded, but no, I think the city would have the ability to.
Even if he had put nothing there?
The word nothing or
No, nothing,
left it blank?
just like this one.
Again, I think given that the award would have already been made, at that point we're in a different posture than we are today.
I understand that, but the purpose of that section is to hold someone accountable for the information that they put on that section or don't. Material misrepresentation or material omission. Either one, you would agree with me, is something that we can take the vendor to task on.
Yes, but I think that it is different. I don't know, frankly, I don't know if the city knows what it's getting here. I don't know if the city knows that it's getting a nothing answer. So I don't know if they'd be able to hold the person accountable.
Let me just read for you one last thing.
Sure.
Because you said you don't think it requires something affirmative. And the sentence, this paragraph starts out asking for an affirmation, and it says, except as follows. This is what it says, except, and it's underlined. Except as follows, indicate reasons why the affirmation cannot be given, and list any convictions, pleas, imposition of probation before judgment with date, court, official, administrative body, so forth and so on. If you don't have anything to list there, what difference does it make if you put nothing, or you write nothing, or you write NA?
I understand your point completely. My point, again, I just want to, and I'll end on this point, I don't want to take too much of your time, is that Santos had this same issue several years ago. It was denied a bid for the same reason, and I believe consistency should be applied no matter if it's R.E. Harrington, Santos, given that the board is different, and I understand rules.
Even
can
if we
change.
think it's wrong.
I don't know if, what would have been different 8 years ago when Santos was denied. That's my only point.
Oh, Mike, you have something to add, because I'm ready to call.
Honorable Board,
for the
Michael
vote.
Mullen from the Law Department. With regard to the 2008 decision, Santos did not appear before the board to argue its protests. They weren't here, and so the board proceeded to award the contract as recommended by the agency. I have copies of the minutes if the board would care to see them. That shows that they were simply not here. So the board never had this issue before it.
Thank you.
So I would suggest that's a significant difference here, and the remainder of my comments would be the same as I made before. That accept means you have to list specifics rather than say no, nothing. And many, many of our bidders do leave that section blank, and if we were to throw this out, we would be setting a bad precedent. So unless you have any questions, I'm nothing further.
I'll entertain the motion.
I move that the board reject the protests and adopt the recommendation that's on page 39, items 1 and 2 of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carried. Before we end the board, I would like to recognize Councilman Dorsey, who have joined us. And who else? Councilwoman Sneed, who have joined us. Thank you for coming. There be no more business before the board. We will recess until bid opening at 12 noon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The Board of Ethics is now in session for the receiving and opening bids. There are no bids to be received and opened today. We do have 2 addenda. WC 1355, Urgent Need Water Infrastructure Rehabilitation. Please change the bid due date from February 1st, 2017 to February 15th, 2017. WC 1356, AMIR, Urgent Need Infrastructure, Repair and Replacement, various locations, up to 2-inch water service. Please change the bid due date from February 1st, 2017 to February 15, 2017. Those are the addenda for today.
So noted.
All right. Thank you. There being no further business before the board, we are adjourned. Thank you.